You're probably wondering why I'm stood in a field. Well, this isn't any field. This is a field of dreams. We're here for the Icarus Cup, which is where a bunch of engineers have come to try and fly human-powered vehicles that they've designed and built. Yes, bikes that can fly. Anyway, let's go and meet some of these guys and the contraptions, planes/bikes, that they've built. But why is it called the Icarus Cup, I hear you ask? Well, if you're currently dressed head to toe in tweed and are a prominent member of your local library club, then you'll no doubt know that it refers to the Greek myth of Icarus, who along with his father, Daedalus, was imprisoned on the island of Crete. Fortunately, Daedalus was a master craftsman who also built the labyrinth, but that's another story. Anyway, Daedalus built the pair of them a set of wings made from feathers and wax to use them to escape. But he warned Icarus that if he flew too close to the sun, the wax would melt. Now, the wings were great, but unfortunately, Icarus flew too close to the sun, the wax melted, and he died. Anyway, the moral of the story is, listen to your dad and don't fly too close to the sun. There are 3 of these babies in here today, and fortunately, they're not made from wax, which means, well, the guys flying them don't have to listen to their parents if they don't want to. But they wouldn't even fly that close to the sun anyway, because I'm reliably informed they try not to go above an altitude of 15 meters. That's because, as we will learn shortly, they're very lightweight and quite fragile, so you don't want to go above 15 meters in case the wings fall off. Anyhow, these guys are hoping to fly these amazing contraptions over the English Channel, which is insane. The 3 craft we have in here today have got names. So the one in the background, that's Lazarus. That's a project from the University of Southampton. And then we've got Aerocycle 301 and Aerocycle 302. 302 is an improved version of 301. And the engineering problem that these craft are trying to overcome is insane. And there's just so much cool tech, and seeing how they fly and explaining how they fly is just really interesting. So I'm gonna do exactly that to you. The first thing to point out about these incredible machines is the weight, right? So this is Aerocycle 302, and it's said to weigh just 38 kilograms, which is ridiculous. The Lazarus over there weighs just 50 kilograms. It's incredible when you can see it in real life, like I am here now. And the size of the thing is massive. The wingspan is 26 meters. So for this to weigh just 38 kilograms is astonishing. I mean, even I could lift up 38 kilograms, even with my little weedy T-Rex cycling arms. And again, with cycling in the air, much like cycling on the road, it's all about power to weight, even more so when you're trying to fly. And so carbon fiber is the name of the game here, much like on a road bike. We've got a custom-made carbon fiber airframe with these carbon tubes, and then that extends out to a boom at the back for the tail section of the aircraft that also has a carbon fiber drive shaft that drives a carbon fiber propeller that's got 2 blades. To help keep the weight down of the massive wings, they have an incredible construction, which you can actually see because the wings are coated in mylar, which is a transparent sort of plastic that's kind of a bit like cellophane or plastic wrap if you're American, but thankfully much stronger and doesn't tear anywhere near as easily. Now inside you can see the modelling foam ribs that extend sort of laterally against the fuselage going backwards. And then at the front of the wing, on the leading edge, you've got crossed ribbing as well in there. And the crazy thing about this is it's actually the same construction technique for a wing as what they used on early aircraft and biplanes in like sort of World War I era. The only difference is here now they're using much lighter materials. You're modelling foam and glue instead of, well, I guess it would have been steel and aluminium and canvas. So the cockpit of the aircraft, feels weird calling it an aircraft, but I guess it is here and has a seat that's surrounded by a fairing, again made from the transparent mylar. And the fairing is there to improve aerodynamics and just smooth out the airflow. The bottom of the fairing is actually a Kevlar shell. This is to add strength and rigidity because this is kind of like what it lands on, so it needs to be quite strong. And then you've got the cranks and the pedals at the front here, and onto that they attach a pedal-based power meter. This is so they can get power, but also cadence data, which is important, and I'll tell you why in a minute. That's then attached onto a bevel gear system, and that's so that you can transfer the motion of pedaling through 90 degrees into a drive shaft, which runs along here and is then attached to a gear, which then via a chain can turn the propeller. Now the propeller is geared so that it turns at twice the RPM of the pedals. So if you're pedaling at 70, it's going at 140, or if you're pedaling at 100, it's going 200. And that's really important because the pitch and the twist of the propeller is precisely tuned to give sort of optimum propulsion at that sort of sweet spot of 180 to 200 RPM. And the chain that actually drives the propeller, it's quite curious looking because it's definitely not a Shimano one. It's an industrial chain, and it has sort of a 6mm gauge on it. So it's very fine looking. The flight controls in here are incredibly Spartan, just to kind of stick with the theme of Greek mythology. You've got what is effectively a joystick here that has control over an elevator on the rear to alter your pitch, and then it also controls a rudder as well to change the yaw. But there's no flaps or ailerons on the wings, as, well, that would make the whole aircraft too heavy. Inside, you've got some basic sort of flight instrumentation. So you've got an airspeed sensor, that's what that little gizmo is up there sticking out the front. You've also got a barometer, an altimeter, and an ultrasonic altimeter at the back here. There's that little sensor down there, and that sends our little ultrasonic doobies onto the ground to make sure they don't go above that recommended 15-meter ceiling height. And then you've got a little bike computer mount here too, which can connect to the power meter and give you readouts of speed and other bits as well. Oh, and when you land, we need to stop, so there's a brake, which is operated by way of this piece of string. They use string because they tell me it's light, and then that actuates this, well, what can only be described as a piece of meccano to pull against and push against the rear wheel. And they tell me this makes it stop. The Lazarus is a completely different design in that it's built around a bike, which has a number of advantages. It's considerably easier and cheaper to build this because you've got kind of a frame already in place. It also means you have a riding position that you're used to, and you can get the power out in that position, which is kind of crucial. And you have brakes that work and, well, some nice sort of robust landing gear as well. But there are disadvantages. It's heavier, and it also presents more frontal area to the wind, despite being covered in this fairing. Also, it's quite ironic that it's covered in a fairing when it's an aero bike. As many of you will have noticed, the aero features on this rather nice Boardman are completely redundant. Anyway, in addition to being heavier, it's also the weight distribution is less fixed when you're riding a bike, and this can present certain problems when flying. So if you move around on the bike or the saddle, or even get out of the saddle, as some inexperienced pilots have done in the past, it can totally offset the weight distribution of the aircraft, causing it to either pitch down or the nose to pitch up, and just, yeah, it can become quite unstable and disturbing. You've also got an issue with the drivetrain. Because you're using the simplicity of a bike drivetrain and not the bevel gear that we saw in the other plane, it means that you have to actually twist the chain round in order to get it in the correct orientation so that it can drive the propeller that's behind me. It does have some Shimano 105 components on it though, group set of the people, and this rather nice Dura Ace SRM power meter. Unfortunately though, I'm not going to fly any of these planes today for two reasons. Reason one, I don't want to write checks that my body can't cash. And reason two, it's actually too windy. And that's why we're inside this tent as well, because being so light and, well, so prone to lift, these contraptions easily blow away in the wind and can get badly damaged. And so that's why they have to be kept out of the wind in here. And well, also, we've got this ballast attached to them in the form of these two big weights just to help stop them getting damaged. But let's chat to someone that has flown them. I'm joined here with Niall Patterson, who is a veteran of flying human-powered vehicles. So thanks for talking to us now. The first thing I've got to ask is, what's it like flying one of these amazing machines?
I would describe it probably. Have you ever had a dream where you're levitating, where you're floating?
Yeah.
Where you can sort of float just above the ground. That was my sort of first impression. It was almost as if I was floating in a dream kind of state. It was, and also a sort of bit of a feeling like you're like a naughty kid who's got away with something. Like I've stolen a chocolate biscuit out of the biscuit tin and got away with it. You sort of feel like it shouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
It feels impossible, but it's happening.
So it's quite amazing then, I imagine, like,
it is.
To have that sensation.
And it never goes away. I never get tired of that. I've flown quite a lot of, I would say hours, but no, not hours, minutes. We measure, a veteran of human-powered flying can be measured in minutes. So yeah, I've got a lot of minutes in my logbook.
But you have won the Icarus Cup.
Twice, yes.
Twice,
yes.
Well, I mean, how difficult is it to fly one of these machines?
It's not massively difficult. For example, we've had a lady last year who had never flown an aeroplane before, and her sum total of flying experience was flying the human-powered simulator down at Southampton Museum. And she got in and she flew around about a minute, and she flew very well. So that's the sort of level of experience you need. They're very easy to fly. And
what sort of speed do you go when they actually sort of take off?
Aerocycle tends to cruise at around about the 22 to 25 mile an hour mark.
That's pretty fast.
It is pretty fast when you're trying to keep up on a bike, trying to chase it down the runway. It's difficult, yeah.
And what sort of power? Because you've got power meters on them. You know, what power do you have to produce to, well, firstly get it off the ground, then also maintain flight?
Initially, your takeoff burst, which only lasts for a few seconds, say 5 seconds. You for me, around about 600, 650 watts for the takeoff phase. And then you're sort of settling back into a cruise of around about 350, 380 watts.
Right. And then that's for a lot of people, that's quite a lot of power. So I mean, like how easy is it to do that kind of power output whilst still, like, you know, maintaining the controls? Because I mean, in my head, I'm imagining it's like that thing where you're sort of patting your head and rubbing your tummy, and then at the same time having to do 300 watts. I don't know.
Yeah. In a way, if you sat on the turbo trainer and patted your belly and rubbed your head while you were doing your efforts.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah. You could sit on your turbo trainer and fly a flight simulator at the same time.
That'd be good training.
Yeah, and that's essentially what we've been doing here at the competition and at home as well.
Right. So do you think you could get hold of someone who would be, I don't know, like if we got to like a world tour cyclist with their amazing lightweight and power output, do you think they would potentially be the perfect person to break records in one of these machines?
I don't see why not. As long as they sort of spent the time to do some flying, and we would recommend that would be either in a glider or a powered aeroplane as well, just to get that timing and get that the actual feel of the flying, the motion cues.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No reason why not.
And what's the furthest you've managed to fly in one of them?
I think we're looking at maybe probably just under a couple of miles, I think, is the furthest I've flown. In theory, I should have been able to fly further, but when you look at it, that's the theory's applied to the upright position.
Yes.
So that's where all my best power was and still is.
Different getting the power out.
Yeah, in the recumbent position, we're not really. You know, it's basically we haven't done our homework.
Yeah.
If we did our homework at home more and sat and pedalled in the recumbent position and did all those efforts there, but alongside with your racing and everything, it doesn't really help your time trialing and your racing in the real world. So
it's intriguing. It's intriguing. Yeah, fair play. And all the best of it. As I say, it's a shame we can't fly today because the wind's too high. You see the windsock over there, but. Yeah, hopefully you get some flights in this weekend. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this look at human-powered flight. It's such an intriguing and fascinating engineering challenge that, well, it's incredible to think humans have been contemplating this for thousands of years. And if you have found it interesting, give this video a big thumbs up. Let us know your comments in the comment section down below as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.